Hi, everyone. Okay, so before we get started with this letter, I want to make note that I reached out to Ian Scarth again today. I am going to be putting in that complaint to the Manitoba Law Society tonight. I'm also going to CC the Federation of Law Societies, my local MP, Eric Milano, and my local MLA, Greg Rickford. Um, the reason I'm doing that is because I'm now in a completely different province and my livelihood is being impacted by the legal delays that Ian Scarth and Jessica Hershey are creating. And they may say, well, they're just the representatives of their client. Okay, well, their client isn't even in compliance with the Manitoba Social Work Professions Act, the same act they accused me of violating. So they've violated it on numerous accounts that I can prove. So why is this thing even still ongoing? Um, anyways, so the letter I wrote to Ian today said, in compliance with the Manitoba Social Worker or in compliance with the Manitoba Social Work Professions Act, since the order was not issued within 90 days of the last hearing where the notice of decision was issued, and because the hearings were not held in compliance with the Act, I'm asking for a complete dismissal on this matter. Any further delay will be viewed as discrimination and the intent to do harm by the Manitoba College of Social Workers and myself. Or sorry. Um, I'm asking for a complete dismissal of this matter. Any further delay will be viewed as discrimination and the intent to do harm by the Manitoba College of Social Workers to myself. And I will be forwarding this on to the Human Rights Commission as well to be included within my complaint. Okay, so and I still have not heard back about my offer to settle from Ian Scarth. So when I reach out to the Manitoba Law Society tonight, um, if I have time tonight, there's something else I really need to get done. So if I don't get it done tonight, I definitely will tomorrow. But um, um, I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, so I will be doing the complaint with the Law Society, if not tonight, tomorrow. Now we're going to move on to the letter that I received from the Minister of Justice. So when all this was going on and these hearings were not being held in compliance with the act, sorry, the noise you're hearing is my puppy. Um, these hearings were not being held in compliance with the act. I was not getting any sort of positive response at all. Conflict of interest on the panel. There was numerous things that I feel was done wrong. So at that point, I reached out to the Minister of Justice and Attorney General. So the response that I got back was one that honestly kind of surprised me because it felt like a brush off. But after taking it and thinking about it for a bit, um, this is what I mean by, sometimes you have to read between the lines. Now, in my opinion, they should have had better customer service because realistically, I am or I was a member of their constituency, being that I used to live in Manitoba. But regardless, I'm being a part of their constituency is literally attacking me. Being the Manitoba College of Social Workers through these channels where they're not even in compliance with. And this lawyer, Ian Scarth and Jessica Hershey, are officers of the court who are deliberately violating a Canadian's rights that are protected under the Canadian Constitution, which is the supreme law in Canada. they're they're holding hearings that aren't in compliance with the Social Work Act or Social Work Professions Act, and they're delaying decisions um, based on, or they're delaying decisions and um, not adhering to the time frame in the Social Work Professions Act. So, and all these things can be seen as a direct attack on myself because these things are affecting my income, my livelihood, my sense of well-being, because when you take away somebody's income, you also affect their well-being. You you have an effect on their livelihood, what they're able to do, what they're able to afford, the bills that they're able to pay, the standard of living that they're able to have. All these things are impacted. So this is an attack. Um, and the lawyers are not stupid people, so they know all this. So the fact that they're pursuing this like this is an actual attack, which is why I will be putting in a complaint with the Human Rights Commission, not only against the Manitoba College of Social Workers, but but also against Ian Scarth and Jessica Hershey, because they are officers of the court. They are obligated to uphold Canadian law. So if their client, say, now I'm just using this as an example. This didn't actually happen. But say they had a client who was a murderer and they knew that person was a murderer, and they knew that um that this person, I don't know, maybe I'm saying this wrong. No, I definitely am saying this wrong. Um but they As lawyers, as officers of the court, they have a duty to uphold Canadian law. And they are knowingly not. They are knowingly going against that. And they are, okay, let me see if I can explain this better. They started proceedings against me on the grounds that I spoke out using these YouTube videos, which is my right as a Canadian citizen. So for them to be coming after me about that, it is basically breaching my Canadian rights. They are trying to essentially say that I don't have any rights. I don't have the same rights as the Canadian Constitution has um, instructed that all Canadians have. Um, and in doing so, they are not upholding Canadian law. They are actually trying to dismantle it. Now, I don't know if I explained that properly, but that is how I see it. Okay, so getting back to this letter. So I reached out to the Honorable Matt Weibe, and he writes back, or his office writes back, "Thank you for your June 28th, 2024 email to the Honorable Matt Weibe, Minister of Justice and Attorney General, regarding the complaint to the Law Society, which has been referred to my office for response. You are correct that the Law Society of Manitoba regarding the lawyer, or sorry, you are correct in contacting the Law Society of Manitoba regarding the lawyer's conduct." Now, it's interesting with that because he knew that I contacted the Law Society in regards to the lawyer's conduct. The lawyers, or the Law Society, though. So Matt Weeb, Minister of Justice, acknowledges that this lawyer's conduct is inappropriate. And yet, when I reached out to the Manitoba Law Society, the Manitoba Law Society totally dismissed the complaint. So now I'm going to be that. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping ahead. We'll continue on with this letter, and then I'll explain what my next steps were. It is appropriate, or it is the appropriate authority to raise concerns regarding the action of the lawyers in Manitoba, as it aims to ensure the public is well served by a competent, honorable, and independent legal profession. The Law Society of Manitoba operates independently of the Attorney General. It is not an agency of the Government of Manitoba. Although the Minister of Justice and Attorney General has a general responsibility over the administration of justice in the province, there is a long-standing principle that the minister does not become involved in individual cases. I'd encourage you to call the Law Society directly, so it gives me the contact information, to confirm that you have all the information required on how to submit a complaint, which I do. You may also wish to contact the Community Legal Law Association, phone in lawyer referral program. They won't touch this matter because I'm not a resident of Manitoba. They may be able to provide you with some general legal information and advice over the phone. You can access their services, and it gives me the contact information again. Yeah. So one of the points in here that was super important is the Law Society of Manitoba operates independently of the Attorney General. It is not an agency of the Government of Manitoba, although the Minister of Justice and Attorney General has a general responsibility over the administration of justice in the province. Okay, so when I read that, I thought, okay, this office is just giving me the brush off. They do not want to deal with this matter. They so they're just giving me the brush off, and they don't care. And honestly, that's how I felt, because that's the response I've gotten a lot whenever I have reached out for help over the last 5 years with a bunch of different things. And I was sitting down thinking about it, and you know, my thought was, okay, our Canadian government is completely crap. And at least that's how I felt. Because I mean, if there's nobody regulating these people, these professions that have a direct impact on people's lives and livelihood, then Canada is essentially ran by a bunch of dictators, because there's no real governing body. If the ministers and the people who are elected officials turned a blind eye when they see injustice, then there's really no justice at all. There's no rights, there's no nothing, because when these elected officials see something's being done wrong, they decide to do nothing about it. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, okay, well, if they're not the regulatory bodies to regulate the Law Society, then who does? I thought that the Law Society reported to the Minister of Justice, because it falls under their umbrella, or so I thought. Um, But then I started doing some research, and I found the Federation of Law Societies of Canada. And so I wrote to them. And tomorrow we will talk about what their response is and how I'm going to proceed going forward. We're also going to talk tomorrow about the letter that I received from the Minister of Housing and Addictions. Now, why would I be sending a letter to her? Well, I asked for some advice from one of the officials here in Ontario, and I spoke to their office. And their office told me to write to the Minister of Addictions and Housing because her role, it falls under the social work umbrella. So that is what I did. Um, I didn't think about that because this has nothing to do with homelessness and it has nothing to do with addictions. But speaking with the office that I spoke with, they are right. It does fall within the social work umbrella. So we'll go over that letter tomorrow. For now, I'm going to say have a good night, and I hope everybody's well, and we'll talk more tomorrow. Have a good night, everyone.